go simple with him, who has been a big brother figure for me for a long while. It's my pleasure to be here again once more. I bow in solidarity and sympathy with the families that have lost loved ones on our terrible roads over the past few days. We were woken up on Sunday, 2 days back, to the gruesome motor accident that occurred around Bosumbu Mile 2.
Maybe Sancho.
And yesterday we were again introduced to some very macabre videos coming from Sancho, which is in the West region. As much as we shout out to our motorists on our death traps that we call highways, we shout out to them prudencia, 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 which means they should be prudent. We also would not cease to say a greater portion of the blame is attributed to the non-existent roads that we have, the death traps that we have that we call roads. As much as we also call on road users, be they cyclists or motorists or pedestrians, to watch out, for it is their life that is at risk. We are not finished mourning the death of Ngemo Landry when the incidents in Limbe and in Sancho came face to face with us again. In as much as the Black Rogers sang La Route Ne Tue Pas, c'est nous qui nous tuons. Donc, it is either the road users who kill themselves on the road or the road constructors who construct death traps in the names of roads. It's deplorable to imagine that so many years after independence, we are still constructing roads of dimension 7 meters. The highway that was promised for Yaoundé-Douala is still less than 1/3 or less than 30% complete. The Bikoko Limbe Express Highway that was promised, I even wonder whether the next generation after me will see it come to fruition. And so it's deplorable. We can only pray our ancestors to continue to watch over us.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sama. That was, quite euphoric and very empathic as well. We are calling on all road users to be prudent in, the ways, and be very much meticulous in the way they handle the roads. Ladies and gentlemen, we have, a giant in the midst as well, and this is a prolific engineer and a project analyst, and as well a political diehard. Mr. Mofo George is here with us. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you, and I'm happy with the red carpet rollout there. I think I'm really humble. What the eye does not see itself, and I want to say I've gone through a very challenging moment to reach here because of the topic you sent to me. It's not about the traffic. Talk about the topic you sent to me. And please, in as much as you of the YACO will be excited to talk about some of those things that Cameroonians would like to take as their lunch and breakfast. I go for issues of empowerment, and especially when it comes to things of survival and opportunism. Mm-hmm. So I just hope that we are going to handle the issues that touches every Cameroonian, especially when it comes to economic survival within the sensitivity of policymakers in this country. And having said that, I just wish to say, for those who, like me, want to look at the glass half full, by the end of this program, let them know that we still believe in the future of this triangle, and let them join me by the 16th of this month so that we talk about project management at the professional level, so that they can be able to see alternatives and opportunities within and without Cameroon. So thank you. I want to also doff my hat to Sama and Tambe. I'm meeting Tambe for the first time on the same stage. I think I'm humbled to be here, and I hope we are going to have a swell time, especially getting viewers improve on themselves at the end of this program.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mofo George. And heading straight away, ladies and gentlemen, to the first matter of the day. Mr. Sama, as somebody who handles, a page which is very much interested in social satire or societal satire, you've been following what is going on the news, especially with the recent rifts and chaos on the streets of social media, where Brenda Bia came out overtly to tell us about her sexuality. Now, did this news come as a shocker to you, or coming from Brenda Bia, that was nothing in any way spewing rubbish, based on the fact that she has recurrently, back to back, been on the news for negative things?
Qualifying her continuous outing on social media as negative may be unfair to her. I think she's been on the news, but it's not for me to say whether she's been on the news for the negative or the positive reasons. But I think she's been on the news for her own reasons. And being a young lady of 25, 26, who has had a more than fair share of exposure to royalty and elitist treatment, elitist upbringing, though a troubled upbringing, you would definitely expect that from her. Without really focusing on her, we are in, let me say, maybe that the Cameroonian society is, like most of other African societies, is still a very conservative society. Conservative in the sense that there are still things that, as much as we pretend to show that we are open to modernism and innovation, we are still a very conservative society. Conservative where there are certain values and principles of human life that the Cameroonian, like most other Africans, still hold dear to. That is just the case too with most countries of the Eastern Bloc, the Islamic world, where religion is the umbrella principle that governs existence and citizenship. It's unfortunate that the clock, the dishonorable rope of colonialism we have not yet removed it from ourselves completely. So the colonial impact or the neo-colonial impact is still on our people. That even when we make laws claiming that Cameroon is a secular state, secular means it has no favorite religious orientation, be it traditional religion or Western religion. We are for a liberal society. We still see that there are nuances when it comes to where we expect certain traditional values. And homosexuality, or the absurd sexual orientation that is called homosexuality, is not one of those traditional values of the Cameroonian society. It is not one of those traditional values of the African society, of a conservative society, where we still, what do I mean by being conservative? Where we still believe in the core human and natural values. which are enshrined even in the religions that were imported, like Christianity. Maybe when you insult a child in your neighborhood, or like a teacher, you may be pushed at times to tell a child that you are badly brought up. That's an insultive phrase that does not target the child, because the child does not bring up themselves. So when you say you are badly brought up, it means that those who are responsible, who were responsible for the upbringing of that child have failed. But are we talking of a child in this case? Here we're talking of a 26-year-old adult, 26, 27-year-old adult who is a major criminally and spiritually, who has attained the age of criminal majority. I mean, majority in all its spheres, can take her personal decisions. But again, we expect the exemplary demonstrations to come from the house of the king. Even in our traditional societies, Mr. Mufo would testify to that. When the child of royalty misbehaves in public, say, even the child of the fontu does this, even you, Chief Pikin. And that's why even in our schools, as a teacher, when a student misbehaves and they say, even Principal Pikin to come late, because those are some of the things we expect that coming from where the rules and the standards emanate. You just address her as the first daughter, which means that there is something attached to her which gives her a priority, a privileged position, and a model, a model of values, principles, and virtues. First lady, it is not just by name. First son, the first family. It means that they ought to be first in everything that depicts Cameroonianness. And Cameroonianness is not homosexuality. Homosexuality is not Cameroonian. It is not. Because if you go to our penal code, I will just go into it before you took it from me, in a section 374, 375, I'm sure.
347, section 1.
Whatever. Where it is expressly penalized. Expressly criminalized. But again, you find that we may still come to that. So, if you were to ask me, did it come to me as a shock? No. Because having followed her for a long while in her weird and strange behavioral patterns on social media, I had developed very solid shock absorbers when it comes to her and the family. We have seen more. We have seen serious situations. We have watched her do things, say things that unfortunately we haven't been privy to see those things with other presidentialist children across the world. We have seen the Obama girls. We have seen those of the Bongos and the Gbagbos and the Tinubus now of Nigeria. Or you've seen presidents who have not been able to, who have brought up their children not to be in the limelight of paparazzi. But unfortunately, and that is what also brings us. Let me tell you, Mabel, in every household, when the father figure is absent, these are some of the French use the word, the dérapage that come up. When the father figure is absent, I don't want to really question so much, but we have a president who is approximately 35 years older than the wife, and with that age gap, at 60-something, you are still bringing on young children. Do you have time to? That's why most people are always encouraged.
When you're of a later age, the discipline cannot be compared when you are at your youthful age. But you should also understand the present context of where that child is. I would also like to give you a scenario. Those of us who lived different villages, different communities, and found ourselves here in Buea, Because when I was in level 200 back then in 2011, when I just came to Buea, when Buea was Buea, I saw a girl in Mutengene, my hometown, who was in local parlance, Mary Amaka. That girl could wear a gown from neck to toe. But when she came to Buea, before the semester could end, she started putting on half skirts.
Okay.
Before we knew it, she was joining others at nightclubs.
So you are saying a girl from
a very decent home, very decent Christian home, like where Brenda Pia is coming. Because from what they say, her father is a who? A priest, almost made priest. So it's a decent home as well. Like you quoted an example of her brother, who is a well-respected young man in the society. So I'm just wanting to bring us that the present dispensation of where we found ourselves, because I don't think he's in Cameroon. I don't think she's in Cameroon, pardon. Now,
she's in the US.
If you look at the upbringing of a child, it can be very decent. And where you find yourself at a later age is spoiled that integrity, is spoiled that discipline, is spoiled that upbringing. Now, in the case of Brenda Bia, why are we even here to talk about her? Why is she so special? First of all, she comes from a royalty, like you rightly put it. She's a presidential child. And in Africa, to her presidency. Secondly, she's a model.
By virtue of the fact that
yes, she's a people follower. And if you look at our society and the social media space, they give so much preference to follow and to celebrities because their mistakes becomes people mistakes. Their rightness becomes people rightness. So it takes a lot for us to educate other young girls. You don't know how many young girls must have gone down the drain between the first to today the death. That's why Mr. Mufo was talking about the developmental aspect of it. Because one thing that a celebrity can do can ruin the lives of so many young people. And like you quoted the law that binds Cameroon 347 section 1, which punish whosoever coming from the royal class, coming from a peasant class, you should be punished. Now that she's not administrating lives
on the media,
on social media, it's also something to be questioned. Because if you have your private affairs, you keep it to yourself, and your partner will not be here to talk about it.
Now, Mr. Sama, which is, which has been given her, and something along the lines of maybe this is what has lured her into what she is. Now, is this saying that when you overpamper a child, you train that child to spoil? Is that what you're saying?
Now, let me go back to what Kambe said. I don't know too much of the Bible, but I'm sure there is a verse in the Bible which says, train the child in the right way so that when they come of age, they will keep along that line. They will not depart from it. And so, once the Mary Amaka that you talked of was not able to withstand the pressures of molecular life, as per the training that she got in Mutengene from her home, means that there was a problem with the training. If not, irrespective of where the child finds themselves, there will always be that behind, that notion, that reminder that no, my mom told me. Because there are so many of such children who have come to the temptations of molecular life.
And very few.
I am not very few. No, I'm not doing a quantitative analysis of how many of the figures, but I am saying that as long as we have those who are properly trained, they still go out there and withstand and resist the temptations and the urges of life out of home. Now, let me come back to the question you asked. It's unfortunate, again, and I still say it, the predispositions of a young lady of her age and her upbringing and her elitist upbringing. The predispositions that she is suffering from are many. It is not from me that you would hear that Cameroonians are decrying the absence of the president figure in the life of this country of recent. That the president has been absent to assert his authority, take decisions, and that may translate, I use the word may deliberately, that may have translated into his family life, where we have been able to see from videos posted out of the country, even within the country, how she takes drugs, she smokes, and her choice of career.
Now, do you intend for the president?
Let me say that. There was a time in this country when we were told or we saw two beers had passed the entrance concours into Enam. Brenda Beer and Junior. They passed the entrance concours into Enam.
Would you say
now
you are contradicting yourself, Mr. Sama?
Whether they went for training and came out and graduated and they were recruited
Mr.
into
Sama,
public service,
a while ago
don't know.
you said this is an adult who has the pride of place to make decisions for herself.
Yes.
This is an adult who is outside the country.
Yes.
So if the father is absent in her life, would you want the father to go live with her in order to prove a point that as a president, I'm both involved in my country and the life of my child? Don't you find that very disturbing?
No. What we are seeing now is the product of what wasn't properly done years back. In terms of upbringing, what we are seeing now is the result of an absentee father figure in the life of a child. Now, these are children who are blessed or who are lucky, who have benefited from the grace of royalty, presidential life, and they have had everything at their beck and call. From quality of education to entertainment to luxury to basic necessities, they have had everything. And my worry is, without really mincing my words, it is the result of, again I use that word by francophones, a derapage somewhere. A derapage in her upbringing, which now led to her exposure at that tender age, which is now manifesting as an adult.
That's why I have a problem, because we have so many young people who are watching this program.
Yes.
In the first place, I would like to tell you that not every child, being it a male or a female, who grew up with a fatherly figure,
is responsible.
And some of them have turned up to be better than those who grew up with both parents. That's first thing. Then second thing I would like to bring now. Let me not take the place of a moderator. I'm looking at Brenda Bia as a person,
as an individual,
yes,
and also as an adult who is doing, like what you said, out of excess. Because the small analysis we have done online, how much she is spending with that particular lady. Like the taxi I entered coming here, I was sharing with that my friend, that what is in her account and what they are spending together is a budget that can assist a division.
For a young lady who doesn't earn money,
good,
who does not even have a job.
But how would you know that?
Who simply tells us that she is a musician and we have not been able to get
any of her music.
To get what she makes as you can go online and you Google and get what for example Davido is worth. What even Wizkid is worth. What even Fally Ipupa is worth in terms of rentability, in terms of their output, their sales, their promotions. But what is the musical worth of a Brenda Bia as a musician? Which means that you get, I would want to really chew my words and suppress that devil in me, not to say a spoiled child, I am sorry if I have to say so, but that's not my intention to say, who has decided to waste an unapologetic, without any apologies, to waste national resources of what we are entitled to, and it has gotten her to this level.
Now, let us look at the place of individuality. I think at this time I'm going to bring a senior voice. This is really not one of those topics that he would really feel safe around, but I think Mr. Mufo George, as a parent and as somebody who is in touch with psychology, this is something that anybody can give their own little cent. We are talking about Brenda Bia. Let us look at the place of individuality. Loosely borrowing from what a typical African man would say, you born Pekin, you know born the Pekin he has. And we have heard stories of other first families or presidential families like the Obamas, the Ali Bongos and all of that. You hardly see them on the news for negative things. But Brenda Bia has constantly been on the news, either for suicidal attempts, disowning her parents, saying one thing or the other, and this time we are faced with her sexuality rubbing us on our faces. What do you have to say? Is it an issue of individuality or an issue of failed parenting?
Well, you got me there. You see, one of the traps that we have during this moment of somehow absence of something for us to occupy ourselves, we create distractions. And you see, I am learning, to be honest with myself, when I saw this information on one of the social media handle, I was not interested in it because for some reason it didn't add any value to current thinking in terms of what could come out of it, because
but it may influence your child and grandchildren.
It was like a deja vu. I mean, there is another person who was also caught up on video, even at the act, and she was also one of the famous quote unquote, which has become infamous because after that image just got disappeared. You remember the case of a certain quote. And so to be frank with you, you see people commit suicide even before they die in the proper sense, because I want to bring you evidence that which might substantiate what the previous speakers have been trying to push ahead in terms of parenting. That if it has been proven that 80% of the girls, they get bad because of the irresponsibility of their fathers. The father figure to a girl, and it will be proven psychologically, that there is something they call Electra complex. While the boy to the mother is called Oedipus complex, for the girl to the father is called Electra complex. They are rather, if the girl child is naturally attracted to the father and listen to the father more than to the mother, while towards the mother there's an element of competition. These are psychological studies that are out there. And so with the particular state of activity and even, I don't want to say involvement in taking care of, if we want to say, those of, you called him father of the nation, which means he's a father of plus 30 million persons. And this is just one of those 30 million persons that he's fathering. And so for some reason, it happens that you cannot get every person who is good. Because come even to that nucleus, the presidential family, why are we not also looking at the boy, who is also the senior brother to him, or the one that he had with the first wife? You see, there is, you talked about something in social science they call deviance. You see, you have a natural disposition to have expectations that every person who finds himself or herself in a particular environment should naturally be successful or should come out with this type of outcome as a product. But within that, you find one person
there are exceptions
who goes off the track, and sociologists call that deviance. I want to say probably this might not be the last of what will happen with this particular lady, because she has proven that she is the what they call the unusual, yes, because when people seemingly want to concentrate on
more important things,
on things which are more concentrated on themselves to make a better life for themselves, she comes out with one thing. Either she comes out with some puffy nose with the fumes coming out of the nose, or she finds herself insulting the household,
the parents,
plus, and at times she comes out paradoxically and says she is sympathetic, that she is not aware that Cameroonians are suffering, that people cannot pay school fees or they cannot go to and all of that. So you will find, I don't know whether if this particular case was a case where you find she doing this with another Cameroonian would have seen it as going to look at the background of the other Cameroonian to see where she is coming from and where did they meet. Is the father also a political appointee of the other father and all of that? Because something is connected to somebody, and then now you might want to do another background check to find out where she is coming from. How often does she even have an opportunity to have an exchange with the father, and so on and so forth. So you discover that 5 years where a child is supposed to be built to become a successful person, because what happens is that you are born in a family, the family brings you up and send you to a school, the school prepare you for the society. You will discover that somehow this young lady has hardly gone through all of these stages as it is supposed to be.
Now, is this where you blame the parents, Mr. George?
So in that particular case, what we are not even blaming the parents, because at some point you assume certain roles which is not yours, because if you refuse to be a child, I don't see. I've told you, look at the background of the quote unquote the biological parent, except for probably the mother. I wish I don't also want to talk about her own background, but when you look at the background of the father with all the challenges, one of the things about this Cameroon that is a very complex triangle, that you will find the father instead struggling to save his own head in such a way whereby he generates some satisfaction or confidence or happiness to a majority. And this could just be one of those neglected cases that you say, well, if I can be able to handle a majority and all of that, why should I go defeating the biblical statement that if you have 100 sheep and one gets off the flock, you abandon the 99, go looking for that one. But again,
could this tally also to the fact that he has 3 children, or the presidential family have 3 children, and if one is trained, the 2 are intact? Is this what you're saying? Does this align?
It boils that a child, even though in Africa a child is never outgrown the parent. But at some point, responsibility in Cameroon is determined after 18 years. Where you are criminally liable for your actions, which means your father cannot go to prison in your place in lieu of you. And so in this particular case, let us look at the child and her responsibilities and know that she is criminally liable. Now, the other question is, can we enforce, one of the things about homosexuality or those things, it is there in the penal code, but it has hardly been proven anyway. It is one of those cases that magistrates will tell you that you have to catch the person on the act, just like adultery and those other things. But again, we are talking about a case, somebody might have just smoked some whatever thing and make a declaration, and then he will tell you that I was doing that out of just because I was angry. But again, you didn't catch the person in the act and the rest. But why should she? Ask yourself, I don't know, whatever you sit, Mabel, do you imagine what should be going on behind this young girl's head, and then where is the other brother? Do they have time to also interact? To that he can also question that junior sister, what is happening to you? Why are you creating this type of negative buzz and all of that? So it tells you that somewhere along the line, they are just there, struggling also to be made present, to be felt, to be kept as a discussion point amongst Cameroonians, whether it's for deliberate action, so that we get also element of living our normal roles of survival. Aside, I mean, when you look at what's happening in this country, sex, football, and beer, alcohol, those are the preoccupations that Cameroonians can talk from till now till tomorrow. Those three elements, and this is just one of it that has happened: sex. You see, and I'm setting that the people who are actually excited to discuss this thing, it is our generation. Because as for my generation, there are issues of every parent that is thinking about how to generate money to send the children back.
But I think parents should be concerned, because this is a place where, Mr. George, if the bullet does not hit you, it may hit your daughter or your grandchild.
Of course, but the concern now should be that you don't highlight that, but you educate the child that this is bad, but you don't use a negative example by saying that you know there is a child in Africa who wrote on the identity card profession, the daughter of the president. That's what she was on the passport. Profession, daughter of the president. And it was like a scandal to the
immigration
officers. Is that a profession to be called a daughter of the president? So you find this type of weird and wayward children who wants to become holier than thou and want to think that after their father, that they take ownership of their father merited position, to think that they can replace their father without going through the same process that their father went through to arrive at that destination. So we should be careful, because by discussing what we are discussing now, are we telling the young people who are watching us
to
follow suit, or we are telling the parents that, Father, if you have a daughter,
watch over her orientation.
That should be the focus of what we are saying here.
So what happens now if the father watched over the orientation of the girl child and the child still becomes what we are seeing? Now take, for instance, what we are seeing in Buea. Buea is full, like what you said, Daddy. Buea is full of youths who are kind of like laissez-faire.
And who are gay.
Do you want to see all of these youths? Because if there is a town in Cameroon that research should be carried out about youth juvenile, it's Buea, not Douala, not Yaoundé. I've been in Douala, I've been in Yaoundé. The rates at which we have youths who are doing absurd things. You even want to talk about this homosexuality. Go to Moloko at night. How many girls? Is it because her own has come on public? How many girls are there who are even watching us?
And the truth,
kissing each other, sleeping with each other. It has become a norm. That is why she can have the heart, the temerity to bring it to our feast.
Now, according to Article 347, subsection 1 of the Penal Code, it is castigating and declares punitive measure against gay LGBTQ in Cameroon. Now, a lot of people, Cameroonians, her fans, and patriots, are really fixated, wanting to see what is going to be happening up next, Mr. Samuel.
Now, let me even take you back, apart from the Penal Code of 2016 as revised, that section which you just quoted, 347 sub 1. Go to the law on cyber criminality in Cameroon, it's a 2010 law.
Article 83.
Which says that, 83 sub 1, I'm sure, which says that anybody who shares homosexual oriented SMS or
videos
with another, with a same-sex person is also punishable. That is about, the law on cyber criminality, which means that there is the legal instrument, and we have the legal instruments in place to punish. But unfortunately, the arm of the law enforcer is also twisted. by our own constitution. Go to the preamble of the constitution. It also in the preamble, which is part of the constitution, which says that nobody shall be discriminated by virtue of her sexual orientation. Which means that we have a constitution which is the supreme law,
which is contradictory.
And that is the jungle, the legal jungle in which we find ourselves, which is the basis of the now redundant Fecafoot Minsep fight. That there is a provision in the law which says that Fecafoot is in charge of managing the national football team. But there is a clause in the convention of 2015 which says that the ministry or the government can appoint and give to Fecafoot. So the government actually know, because for the government of Cameroon to also be in the good books of foreign donors and partners, World Bank, IMF, and the other Western governments which remote control our leaders, you must be able to do the things that they want. That is why if you go to the 1948 Universal Declaration of Human Rights, UHDR, it's UDHRO, whatever, it talks about freedom of sexual orientation, which means that everybody has the right to choose their sexual orientation. And that is how the Constitution incorporated that aspect, that nobody should be discriminated against because of that.
But the penal code punishes.
But the penal code now punishes. So that's where you find the paradox of legal
nuances.
Of a legal jungle in Cameroon. When we ratify the international conventions, they come back home and say, that one, now on our own. I remember in 2005 when, in the heydays of the UB-UPSU crisis, the minister came, the minister for higher education, Professor Famenogo, came and he was received at the first gate there by the UPSU activists. And everything they asked him, he said, okay, it is accepted, it is accepted, it's accepted. And when he went back to Yaoundé, the VC at the time, Madame Joma, said, go and meet your minister to like implement the things that you are praying for. That I was not there. That just tells you that the government goes out there and ratifies certain conventions, but comes back home and makes laws that contradict, which are paradoxical to the conventions they have signed. Because if you were to go by the Constitution, which recognizes or which proscribes sexual discrimination or sexually oriented discrimination, which means that anybody can choose their sexual orientation, whether it is man, woman, whatever, but it is your choice. And that is why even this aspect of bestiality exists over there, where you see a man comfortably. I shared on my platform the other day, a woman in total romance with her dog and sharing a passionate wet kiss and sucking episode with her dog. Go to my page, and you see it there. I'm sure it's episode 2561. It is still there. But that is her right, and that is her choice. And there are laws there permit them to do that. But we are talking about protecting, preserving, safeguarding our African conservative when it comes to values, conservative when it comes to principles, those core principles that make us who we are, and homosexuality. And that is why even when we got recently the Catholic Church, which is the mother of all churches, came out with a press release. I don't yet know whether it is fake news, accepting homosexuality and that priests should bless
same-sex
marriages.
That was fake.
Whatever. But we have seen that there is a fast-growing shift in even the orientations of the churches. The Anglican Church has authorized, we have homosexual priests, ministers in the Anglican Church. And we got the backlash from the Anglican Church in South Africa and in Nigeria that they will not do that. which means it is a gradual move. And do not be surprised, Mabel, that this young lady, misguided as she is, not in quotes, in open quotes, poorly brought up as she may be, is being used by lobbying organizations, these LGBT things. Because we have seen a situation where the president of Uganda, Yoweri Museveni, stood his grounds and said, keep your loans, keep your donations, keep your humanitarian aids, as long as those things are tied to homosexuality in Uganda. I stand my grounds, I don't want them. Because to him it is unheard of. It is not only sarcastic, it is dehumanizing. Not only from the religious perspective, but from the social, from the human perspective. And I think I will not be surprised, again as I said, that this young lady is just simply being used as an espion by these LGBT pressure groups to push a case through. To see, as you said, now that it has happened within royalty, within the palace, let us see what they will do. Let me correct what Mr. Mufo said. There are cases of Cameroonians who have been jailed. For being homosexual, for declaring homosexuals in this country. There are cases of those who have been jailed for being suspected of being homosexuals. The facts are there. It is not one. It is not two. There are many of them. And let us now that it has happened to them, okay, this homosexual is their own. Jail them. This other one is our own. Should we turn a blind eye to it? But again, given that we are in a country of misnomers.
But she's in the US. She's not in
No,
Cameroon.
but she just left Cameroon and she will definitely come back to Cameroon, which means that a conscious state counsel, state prosecutor can auto-prosecute, can start the matter even without a complaint coming from a civil rights group. But let us see how far it will go. But given that it is the way it is, I wonder whether anything will be done. But it is a slap on their face. One, for poor parenting, and two, for applying selective justice.
If you want to talk about poor parenting, and if a family has 3 kids and one is gone wayward, would you still? Are you still going to put them on poor parenting? Is that going to be safe?
Mabel, before our parents give their daughters out or their sons out in marriage, there are questions they ask. He come of which kind of family? Imamina who be papa? How they grow? Those are questions that we ask, which means that your parenting has something to do with your upbringing and your destiny. Which means that there is something that was not done right or something that was done wrong. And that is why parents would want to know. Bring the man. The guy comes to the house and your mom secretly goes behind to ask questions from her friends in the church groups, in the Cartier association. Do you know this family? How are they? How do they bring up children? Because they say, no, my son cannot get married to a girl from that family because it speaks volumes.
Okay. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, we'll take on a few reactions before we get to the next topic of the day. But permit me, if they are very sensitive comments, I'll just have to slide by. We are not here to settle scores. You can pass across your message, maybe to the presidential family, politely, okay? Tiffany says, maybe this will just give President Paul Biya a heart attack. Well, let's watch and see. Nia, Frank Biya has been on hard drugs, cocaine, all his life. He sniffs and sells cocaine. Well, I don't know about that. United Media. Please, guys, you may have to censor your messages. This one says, you keep talking about people who don't even know what they are. You keep talking about people who do not even know the color of poverty. What a pity. Cameroon has Cameroonians have better job to do. Thank you so much. And this one is from Monsignor. People are there making their dollars, and that one called Brenda Bia has been posting on Facebook the whole time. Sometimes it's good to come out from a poor home and be a responsible person in public. What in the name of President daughter is this? Nzin Merolin. Thank you so much. And in a country that gay is forbidden, are we sure that this girl is going to be brought to book? I'm just talking in follow up with what the gentleman on your set was saying. Thank you for the program, Mabel. Thank you so much. And this is Ophelia from Moyoka. Thank you, Ophelia, and I hope Moyoka is doing well today. Is this what Brenda Bia is doing is forbidden here in Cameroon, but it is her choice. Soon her father will say, "Mes chers compatriotes, Jaban Suzanne." Thank you so much for your responses, ladies and gentlemen. I think your final words on the matter before we
let me
actually
just
get to the
react
next.
on one of those messages talking about if she will be brought to book or not. That should be an issue that we have administrative body and the judicial body to look at it. Mr. Sama have said it. If we have cases of people who have gone down the book, and from what I know, my own little knowledge, the law does not discriminate. If you go at the Boya High Court, you see that statue with a sword and the eye is blindfolded. The law does not discriminate. It comes on you directly depending on what your crime might be, depending on the penal code. So we believe that if it is penalized by our Cameroonian codes, we have Article 347, Section 1, we have, according to the Cyber Security, Article 83, Section 1. If it is so, then we are hoping that she will be penalized. And some of these laws give space. Either you pay the fine or you go in for it. So we believe that since as they have their money, they might decide to give the fine without some of us knowing. So be rest assured that you who might be watching, you who might have seen that video and you think you want to replicate or you want to feel like her, you might go down the book because she is going to be penalized.
Okay, thank you so much. I think this is a clarion call to our young people. Mr. Sama, your final words in 1 second as we conclude that particular topic.
It's not only a slap on the presidential face, it's a slap on our national face as well. Mm-hmm. It's a slap on the face of every Cameroonian, the right thinker. Mm-hmm. It's a slap on the face of every Cameroonian child who has been properly brought up. Mm-hmm. It's a slap on the face of every Cameroonian parent who has worked so hard to bring up their young girls and their young boys properly in following the principles of a conservative African society. It's a slap on the face of every auntie and uncle and cousin there who has worked so hard to raise good children, to know the right thing and do the right thing. It's a slap on the face of the Cameroonian community. It's a slap on the face of every Cameroonian who thinks and acts normally and rightly. And it is even more of a slap, but a spit on our face, because at the end of the day, nothing will be done. And so those who have been penalized and criminalized and imprisoned, either in definitive detention or pre-trial detention because of such misguided actions, they would have, their sufferings would have gone in vain, because at the end of the day, let me divert from what Tambe just said. This is going to act as a booster, as a catalyst. It will embolden many more young people to follow suit, and very soon,
yes. They organize this program.
No,
for us to talk to this youth.
No,
that this has not come to a booster, but instead we are decrying that situation. No. You said it is a slap to our face.
Tambe, excuse me, please. You are an idealist.
And you are?
You are talking of what you want the society to be. I am describing the society.
What the society should be.
Yes, and I am saying that with this slap and this spittle on our face, it is going to open up the floodgates for many more young girls and boys, even within Boya here. What social media handles, you will
not do is there
and
to write against this thing.
And we write against it, but
so, and
it
don't you think
doesn't
that
stop.
it's going to be far?
No,
it's not going to be far-fetched.
No, you write against it, but you should take cognizance of the fact that it has opened the floodgates for many more of them to feel emboldened and come up and say, if Brenda Bia could do it and go cut-free, so who am I? And let me see who will come.
Thank you, gentlemen.
It's unfortunate that you are giving us this lopsided assurance that she will know that she will be brought to book, but I assure you that nothing will be done to her.
You are assuring Cameroonians, not me.
No, I'm assuring you that nothing will be.
Cameroonians who are watching.
Can please? I am assuring you that contrary to what you have said, nothing will be done to her.
And what if something happens?
And those who have suffered because of this same offense,
Mr. Samba, is she way above the law? Excuse me, gentleman. Mr. Tambe, excuse me. Mr. Tambe, excuse me. Is she way above the law? It is well enshrined and captured on the penal code. She isn't. So are you saying that Cameroon is not a state of law?
Is it a state of law?
The law is biased.
Anyways, thank you so much.
You must have read. If you did,
our law biased.
No, if you did literature in the high school, you must have read Animal Farm.
Snowball.
There are
more
animals.
Human beings.
Good.
And you know how the story ended.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. We are going to the next talking point of today. If we have so much time in our hands, then we are going to be taking a few comments. I see some of your comments, and thank you. Some of them are heartwarming, and some of them sends a shiver down the spine. Cameroon has been faced with issues of biometric ID cards production and issuance for about, sometimes which lingers for about 3 months, but sometimes people are in wait for years. And recently, there has been a law that has been passed that the production of ID cards is going to take 24 hours and with a higher fee of about 25,000 or thereabout. And some Cameroonians actually are seeing this to be some ploy for elections, since election is somewhere around the corner, and they have been asking the question, why have there been a statutory wait all of those years and nothing has been done, and why now at the nick of elections, why other things, it is based on the fact that there has been a perpetual clarion call to the conscience of government. What do you think? And that is why we have cooked up this program today. Mr. George Mufo, you have been somebody who has been following recent political issues. When this law was passed, what did you make of it? The production is going to take at least 48 hours, I think, and it's going to be taken into effect by the end of 2024. So we are looking at November, December.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I want to say, remember in my intro, I talked about insensitivity of a certain political class, where what is expected at a particular time, we use other reasons to provoke Cameroonians. And we don't also, that particular class that I call insensitive, they don't read the signs of the time on the wall, especially when they hear that a certain country, probably even poorer than Cameroon, because the same institution tried to hoodwink its citizens by sending in a finance bill. I just want to say what we have is what is called in administrative law an ordinance. An ordinance takes the force of law, but it requires that it has to be ratified by the legislative body. So in that particular case, as you said, the law might take effect by the end of the year. just as it can also be, I think I advocate for the fact that the current parliament that is sitting should rather reject the ordinance and don't ratify it, so that we go back and tell the situation before that ordinance. As we speak, the regional delegate of one of the high officials in the national security in the littoral region has actually sent out a press release asking his colleagues and his collaborators to continue taking the 2,800 francs, which is the normal stamp duty that was supposed to be for the ID card. Maybe I just want to let us know that identification of citizens is both a political, economic, and social obligation for a state that wants to plan, especially developmental projects, should be able to know the profile, the demographics, and the natural resources of that particular state. So it behoves on the state to find a way. But you see, in other countries, national identity card, what they call national identity card, is not an obligation. In other countries, anything that can identify you, your passport, your social insurance card, and the rest, is used as a tool for identification. This is in the case of the US. So you are not obliged to always carry along what they call national identification card. And paradoxically also, other countries that have talked about issuing a national identity card, again, for its usefulness, because even the United Nations actually has a program that actually, for its global policy and projection, it is they see it as a very important tool for planning, whether short-term, medium-term, or long-term plan. So identification is good in terms of profiling and knowing who is where and doing what. But you see, the issue on that debate now, whereby most Cameroonians are actually seeing it as some sort of an insensitive and untimely decision, is based on the fact that the recent National Institute publication, as at 2023, we are talking about 40% of Cameroonians who are still living under less than $2, which is prescribed as the poverty margin. And $2 is something around 1,200 by current exchange rate. And if people are living below that, and you find that officially 2,800 is the stamp duty, just as the 10,000 francs which is being promoted or being highlighted that might go into effect, exclude the fact that you have to make other documentation like the certificate of nationality and a photocopy of your birth certificate. So it brings the cost up to something around the neighborhood of at least 15,500, which is going by the current rate of minimum wage. It's about 1/3 of the minimum wage in Cameroon. So you see, it brings up a lot of questions and even anger. Another paradox is that our election cards, they don't expire. The national identity card, after 10 years, it expires. You have to go to renew it and all of that. And we see ourselves in a situation where the priority now for Cameroonians is, first of all, to see how we solve some national toothaches. We have the socio-political crisis, which has depleted, and actually, in fact, somebody has actually said Bamenda is the best town to live now because the cost of living is really, really down there. Because maybe you can go to Bamenda and you will think that Bamenda is not Cameroon, because you will see the quantity of goods that you can buy. In fact, when we talk about inflation elsewhere, in Bamenda we talk about deflation, because money is so scarce. You find people coming with goods in the market and virtually abandoning it there because there are no buyers. And you see those who have stayed behind, there are people who don't have anywhere to go, but they have decided to stay behind. So you are faced with the absence of money, challenging roads, insecurity, everything. And you find that the only thing to recourse to is to use violence, to be able to get through to survivor. And so this platform that you are giving us, me in particular, to talk about this ordinance that is going to increase the cost of establishing a national identity card, I am for the position that it should not be ratified by the members of the National Assembly who are currently in session. I think that will be one vote too many to the others who are also, notwithstanding the fact that they are claiming that its rapidity, the time element will come in. But again, I don't think that ID card is absolute as a priority. We can identify Cameroonians using other tools if it's for development planning.
No, but look at the daunting procedure in acquiring an ID card.
That's what I'm saying. That what is it? First of all, what's the purpose of an ID card?
For identification.
ID card, no, it's not for identification. The first thing, that's the misnomer that people, you can identify yourself with
school ID or passport.
Passport, or even the things that when you go to school and they establish birth certificate or the issue there. The issue there, the original purpose of making an ID card is for purpose of censor. They want to know the number of persons who have reached a certain age. So for when you are planning development goals, you are looking at those people who are within a certain age, and you know how to tilt your social, economic, and political objectives. But when you look at it now as a criminalizing, why are other countries doing it for free? Neighboring Gabon, it comes out with a good campaign that you're visiting, and these are all countries within the same CEMAC region. So remember, the whole thing is, I don't want to give an interpretation because I'll be justifying why it should go up. I'm saying that for once, I've taken a position that ordinance should not be ratified by the members of the National Assembly.
Okay, thank you so much. And we all know that in September 29, the Delegate General for National Security, Martin Bagangwele, passed this ordinance, and lots of Cameroonians have actually, embraced this idea, considering the numerous sweats that they get to break in order to get their ID cards done. According to Mr. George Mufo, the Parliament should not enact this law. What do you make of it? Do you think this is a ploy to amass or canvass votes, or this is just a timeless venture or a wasting endeavor?
Maybe I feel sorry for Big Brother George. It's wishful thinking. Parliament should not, but I want to say it to his face. Parliament will be ratified. I may want to challenge him for his whole life, his whole existence, and his whole exposure to the dynamics of the Cameroonian political landscape. Show me 5 bills that have gone to Parliament and Parliament has rejected, and I'll tell you the day Jesus Christ is like coming back for the second time. And I'll announce to you the second coming, the exact date and time of the second coming of Christ. If you can give me, just 5 instances. For all our lives, our Parliament has existed for over 50 years plus. Just give me 5 instances where a bill has gone from the presidency to the National Assembly and parliamentarians have suo motu, have stood their grounds to reject. That is just for you to understand that what I'm saying is that it is wishful thinking, which by the 7th of July, when this session of Parliament, this ordinary session would be expiring, you would hear that ordinance has been ratified by Parliament. And Cameroonians would move on. As docile as we are, because docility is the chromosome in our DNA, we'll move on and say, well, let us see how far it goes. Let me tell you, one of the strategies of governance that this bedeviled government has chosen, this cursed government has chosen, I take responsibility for my choice of words. I take personal responsibility. So do not be scared. One thing that they have chosen to do, they impoverish you, they weaken you, they make you a destitute, a beggar. Then when they come up with a seeming innovation, you hail them.
Which is
by the time this government said stamp duties for passports will be 110,000 francs, and passports will be issued 24 hours, in less than 24 hours or 48 hours maximum, Cameroonians celebrated. But why did they have to push it to that cost? Something that is being done in other countries neighboring us, far less than that, within the same time duration. We shift. Maybe you have data, so you are connected now. Do a fast Google check on the rates, the tariffs of passport for Central African countries and African countries, and see the index where Cameroon sits. We have one of the highest. There are countries where passports are issued at less that tariff, and within the same duration.
Maybe they are discouraging national exodus.
No. Listen, that's why I've said it's like a situation where you make a child so vulnerable, so hungry, so that whenever you come to give that child food that you ought to do as a duty, that child hails you as a savior. You are now doing it as a favor, not as a duty. ID cards, Josh has told us true. In some countries are issued for free. For free. In Cameroon, stamp duty is kept at 2,800. And then they make it so difficult. Let me give you this anecdote of the story of the young man who left Douala, went to the west somewhere around Noon Division, around Fumban, because Douala had refused to extend his ID card receipt repeatedly for more than 2 years, and they said, go back to the station where you did it. He traveled to the village, went to the police station, provoked, a scene there, a fight. He was caught, locked up, detained, and the wife eventually died with him still in jail. That is what the system uses. It pushes you to the fringes, makes you so vulnerable and so beggarly, so that when they come up with an innovation, with a tag that it will be issued in 2 days, you look at it as thanks to the magnanimity.
Now, but what
this
is your
infamous
point exactly?
The point I am making is that it is not a favor, and I don't see it as a favor, that ID cards will be issued in 2 days or in 48 hours, because that is what a normal society that moves on its feet and forward, not like us that moves on its head and backwards, ought to do. It shouldn't take 48 hours with 10,000 francs for you to have an ID card. It should have taken you nothing within 48 hours to have an ID card, like it is done in normal societies. That is why, Mabel, what I am saying, it is nothing to celebrate. Mabel, I listened to him, to you say that it may eventually accumulate to 25,000. And I heard Josh in a very modest way say that it may be up to 15,000. Maybe there are subdivisional headquarters in this country that do not have a national security post. There are subdivisions in this country that don't have a police station. If you take the case of Widikum subdivision, except recently, but by the time I last visited Widikum, they didn't have a police station, just like a court. And it's a very vast subdivision. People have to live from Ambele clan to, Menka clan, where they trek for 8 hours to get to Widikum and take a vehicle to Batibo subdivision to establish an ID card or to have judicial redress. Maybe I am telling you about a situation where somebody will have to pay, be it in the dry season or the rainy season, not less than 10,000 francs from Ambele or from Menka or from Konda to come and do ID card in Batibo. which is the nearest public security post where there is an identification unit. You pay 10,000 to come on a bike, and you have to spend about 15,000 francs. They have to pay 10,000 francs to go back, and they tell you to come back another day. How much would you have spent? Which simply tells you, I wonder whether there is a security post in Furawa, and the distance from Furawa to Wum, which is the nearest subdivision, is over 50 kilometers. Over 50 kilometers. And there are places in the far north region like that. And so you are just looking at the stamp duty. You are not looking at the other incidental cost. That is why I have said, there is nothing to celebrate about. It doesn't pacify me. It doesn't comfort me. It doesn't give me reason to celebrate. Because these are things that ought to have been done normally. For the same citizens to have them for almost free, or at most at the same 2,800 francs.
When was the right time? Yeah, I mean, back and forth, you keep reiterating.
It is long overdue. It is long overdue.
So when was this supposed to be the right time, Mr.
It ought to have been done long before now. So there is no reason for me to celebrate.
Okay.
There's no reason for me to celebrate.
Okay. Now, Mr. George, a Cameroonian once asked me on my panel during one of those vocal outings and asked, anytime there is a clarion call or we pinched on the conscience of the government on something that we find worrisome or dilapidating in the country, and when we have their involvement or intervention, we say it is their responsibility to do it. And we don't see it out of their magnanimity or out of their largesse or something. What would you say vis-a-vis this?
Like I've said, by the way, the context of Cameroon, the ID card is a legal document that if you don't present it, you are termed a criminal, and you can actually go to prison or you pay a fine.
Or both.
But with the case of the passport, it is not an obligation. So they can even make the passport 1 million. But the issue here, maybe, is that why the ID card becomes something of a headache, because as it is now, without an ID card, I nearly missed my certification for my PMP exams because the Americans could not accept what we call the receipt. I had to rush and do a passport, which was what I finally used to go in for my PMP certification. Which means that this thing they call a receipt is not a legal document that passes for every other scenario. And so, based on this necessity, the absence of an ID card already prohibits you from carrying out or undertaking certain transactions. And so,
even cash withdrawal from the bank.
Based on the fact that it becomes a tool for your own emancipation, your own freedom of doing certain things, it should have rather led to the government even issuing it for free. And when someone was talking about the present parliament that they would definitely ratify this ordinance, it gives us another option in the governance of a state. There is another third arm they call the civil society. Except for calling people to go out to the street and create whatever disorder and all of that. I think I'm also thinking and calling on the civil society activists to also join me in saying and loudest that this is a bad signal. Because if we let this go, times are changing. I'm one of those Cameroonians who actually think that inside the darkness of all the black and negative things, something good can still come out from this triangle. And this could be one of those testing moments. Because, come to think about it, this ordinance came out since the 24th of May. and the parliament was convened around 7th of June. They are almost in their last week of their other normal circumstances. They would have, because they are already debating as we speak the normal orientation for the 2025-26 midterm financial whatever. So it means that even somewhere, because whether you like it or not, one of the most informed institutions in this country is the presidency. I think they tested the water to try to see, well, with this, because in that ordinance there are some good elements there, but nobody is highlighting that. And maybe I want you to say that when you see the provocative nature of some individuals in this government, when you see a minister, the convoy of minister of 40 cars, or what they call great cylinders and all of that, then they pass through the toll gate, they don't pay. And then you find the Cameroonian who is struggling every day with all this whatever thing, and then you still come again and you use another whip to let them know that what is supposed to be given them by right, that they have been paying 2.8, and some people get their own expired without even receiving what they paid for. Until like one time when the delegate general himself saw that this was becoming a provocation or a national disgrace, and had to say that, okay, this document, once you have the receipt and it's expired, they don't need to stop you again on the highway, because it was becoming a national disgrace.
Excuse me, Josh. That circular from the Delegate General for National Security applied only to the other 8 regions. It was not applicable to the Northwest Assembly for security reasons.
Okay.
So it was selectively applicable.
Yeah,
it was selectively applied.
So that's the more reason why people who are in the civil society. I mean, yesterday, 2 days ago, I was watching a debate on national television. For once, I saw how all the panelists were agreed on the fact that this is a bad ordinance. This is a bad ordinance.
Now, why?
Because first of all, it is above the average realities of Cameroon, where Cameroonians don't see this again as. First of all, we have other increase. The inflation rate of Cameroon has gone up to 4 point. When I say inflation has gone up to 4 point something, unemployment has increased, underemployment has exploded. So you find that the average person who is staying somewhere and struggling to survive, then you come again, instead of alleviate or reduce the tension on that person, you come again and, because I've given you the reason whereby there are certain transactions that you cannot undertake without a national identity card. So what makes you to be happy to be a Cameroonian where you can freely do business when at every corner, twist and turn you are faced with obstacles? So a sensitive political institution will know that this particular ordinance, especially that element of increment on the prices of establishment of a national ID card, is not a good ordinance. They should delete that part. They could reinforce the other one, because actually they are talking about a decrease in the cost of governance and increasing the amount of money that they are going to send to those countries, those regions that have engaged themselves in destroying themselves and all of that. So let us look at the good side and delete this part of increment on the establishment of the national ID card.
Great. Mr. Tambert, from the Delegate General, we are saluting, the initiative while some other people are shoving it away. Do you think this is way beyond or shoving down hot air in the throats of Cameroonians, or is this coming to alleviate their frustration? We have seen instances where at police stations, Cameroonians will stand in a queue or literally the whole day trying to get one process done for the fulfillment of a national identification card.
I would like to speak on both sides. First of all, it has come to add to our frustration, and second, it's something that we should applaud, because I'm one of those youths who is on the field. I can feel the inch and the pain of my fellow youths. As the youth leader of EYACLA, which we stand for engaging young Africans in governance and leadership, We are not for the government, and we don't support youth with irresponsibility. But when you look at the issue of ID cards, there are some basic things. ID card has become like drinking water for us Cameroonians. The kind of headache it gives us. There are people in this Cameroon who have produced ID cards with 500,000. There are people in this Cameroon who have produced ID cards with 50,000.
Yes.
Because of the frustration. If you want to go the normal way, you sit and wait till eternity. And when you bring out your lofty sum of money, within 3 days, your ID card is out. So I think within still the ambit of these administrators, they have tested the water like Mr. Mufo Josh have said it. And they have seen that we have the money to spend. And it is a basic legal document that we need.
Maybe you should be, you stand corrected. Is it about we having the money to spend or the fact that we are desperate?
We are not desperate. We are not desperate. It is a legal basic document. It is like birth certificate. I came to realize when I have grown the importance of birth certificate.
Okay, now we have a lot of Cameroonians, Mr. Sama, who are seeing this as a venture to Ghana votes, considering, and the best is always reserved for the last, as people often say. Why is this coming now? You are one of those people who are holding strong to the motive that it is not timely. This has been long awaited, and it's coming now. Do you think this is a venture to Ghana vote?
No. Rather, if you want many more Cameroonians to register for elections, you would rather have made the issuance of ID cards free of charge. Yeah. Free of charge. Let me tell you that there was a time in this country when CPDM was really competing for popularity in my subdivision, Batbo subdivision. I may want to let you know. And a good number of CPDM barons grouped themselves together and came to the village, came to the municipality, and made donations to the tune of millions to issue free ID cards to the villagers. Everybody within Batbo, once you could prove that you are an indigene of Batbo subdivision, you go to the police. They left the money there. However it was used, nobody cared. They wanted the vote. So they contributed the money and left it there for anybody from Batbo subdivision who did not have an ID card at the time to go do an ID card and register for election. For free. That is free of charge on the shoulders of the citizens. But they bore the responsibility and they paid. So what we thought, there are basic things that the government in this country is subsidizing or claim that they are subsidizing. This one would have been. It wouldn't. But unfortunately, our government is cash strapped. Our government has a budgetary deficit. Our government is struggling to get money to manage itself. And all of this, it has nothing to do with elections. It has nothing to do with votes. They don't even care, because if they cared, this would not have been the time for them to do it, because people who would have established ID cards for themselves and register to vote would no longer do it because the cost has been raised. So they will not do it. So their interest is not about your vote. First of all, this government, Mabel, and I say it even to my friend Sirin Jomo, this government is not bothered by how many Cameroonians register to vote. It doesn't bother them.
Is that going to be fair to say?
No, that is the fairest thing I have ever said. This government does. They sleep and snore. How many of you register to vote does not bother them? Theirs is.
So how do they get
No.
That's a very misleading statement.
So how do they get their wins, Mr.
Listen, Mabel. What they are interested in is, have we put the cards together? Have we put the pins and the points together to ensure
and
that
how are the cards put together when
it has nothing to do with the number of people who register to vote?
Mr. Sama,
so how do they get their votes?
I
So-
believe you are a senior citizen.
So how do
There
they
are
get their
some
votes?
things- I
Tambe, can
believe
you listen to
one
me,
time
please?
I watched you on High TV this same
Can you
time,
listen to me, Tambe?
that you
Let me
gave
learn.
a scenario how you were an observer in one of these local elections. So if you can vividly say on air that registration of voters does not matter, then I don't think you deserved to be an observer, because there should be no need for people to go and observe. In last senatorial election, I was an observer. And if the government is making provisions for observers, for international bodies, it's because they need an external eye. So if we give it all a laissez-faire that those who are struggling to galvanize people to register for their voters' cards, then
We have seen a lot that CPDM is doing,
Then
to
even
canvass
other
votes.
sisters political parties, they are doing a lot. Even my organization, every day we are on the field.
Okay. So how do they get the
Can I
votes?
talk
How do
Yes.
they get the votes? Queuing in from them, Mr. Sama.
Can I talk?
Please go ahead.
And I would really appreciate if Tambe allows me
No.
to
That's
the
fine.
end
They
without
have- Okay,
without,
sorry.
without impolitely
That's
Sorry.
interrupting.
Sorry.
So this thing is turn by turn. You have your turn to speak.
I understand,
and
but there
I'm
are some
entitled to
things-
yes.
It's okay, just go ahead.
The gentleman in us requires that we listen while the other person talks.
Okay.
You can come after.
Okay.
So I again, maybe as I always say, I take responsibility for everything I say on here. And to correct him,
And it doesn't mean it's factual.
and that's why I take responsibility. So let some other person prove me wrong. And that's why
And who takes responsibility on
let
the
me
listeners?
correct Tambe. I have never been an observer, and I've never said on air that I am that I have observed elections. I've never been mandated by any organization to observe elections in this country. But what I see, which I hold strongly to, is that this government does not bother about how many thousand people register, how many million people register. It is not their worry. The government in place, the ruling party in place, does not bother. Their interest at the end of the day is have we cut our teeth and dotted our eyes to be sure that it favors us?
And
at
how
the
is
end?
that, Mr. Sama? You're speaking in riddles. The poor woman from Bukwai interested in this political program will
Maybe.
not be able,
Maybe.
to pick the sense. By placing the cat on
Maybe.
the table, what is
All right,
this?
good.
Is this crusade?
Somebody registers for elections under Eleka or NEL or whatever,
Under Eleka.
and says that I reside in my 16. There is a law which gives a time frame for Eleka to publish, or the election governing body in the days of ONEL and Eleka, now ONEL 1, ONEL 2 and Eleka now, to make public the voters registration, make it public in a public space, make it public so that people go there and check to verify their information and everything. Eleka or ONEL does not. And by 24 hours, 48 hours to election date, your name figures or features on a list in Bova or in Bunya or in Ututu. You registered that you are in my 16. And so the government for Eleka, by some alchemy, by some magic or by some human error, has shifted your name to Ututu. And on that election day, there's a law, no vehicle moves from one neighborhood to another. Only administrative vehicles move. And
The
so,
law by who?
I was going to ask.
Tambe, can you be very polite?
No,
Can you be
Mr.
polite?
Sama. No.
This thing is not personal.
No.
This thing is not personal.
It's okay, Mr. Tambe. Let him laugh.
As you
It's
had
fine,
the time
it's
to
fine,
talk
it's fine.
to your
Mr. Sama, there is
fans,
no time.
I am
It's
talking to
okay.
people who listen.
Okay, now.
And so I am saying that, and I don't want this thing to look personal.
Now, but please, can you just
There's like
respond?
you're
No, I'm not
the
responding to
question?
him. I'm not.
No,
He doesn't ask me questions.
it's
Okay,
like
no,
you're
that's what I was
taking
going to ask.
emotionally
Thank
as
you.
well.
You ask me
Thank you.
questions.
No,
You
it
ask me
doesn't.
Are we talking now to our fans or we are talking to Cameroonians?
No, to Cameroonians, of course.
That's the thing.
Now,
Question.
okay, so laws imposed by who?
Not imposed. There is a law governing election organizations.
I mean, the cars not
organization.
moving or the restriction.
No, there is a restriction on on the population that on election day business is closed. There's no market
Okay,
day.
Mabe, I would like to say something.
No,
please.
let him land, please. I'm not giving you the microphone. By who? I want to understand.
No, there's a law put in place by the government. Our law. It is not. There's a law that on election days business is closed. There's no market day. There's no activity, and vehicles don't move from one neighborhood to another except administrative vehicles and security vehicles. And if by that day you discover that your name, which was supposed to be at the police station in my 16, appears in Bova, Bokwai, some other place, you cannot move. And so that is what I'm saying. The government is not bothered. As much as they do the charade that they are encouraging Cameroonians to go and register massively, whether how many of you register or not, if this government still wants to maintain itself in power and win elections, they will win. That's why I have said this issue of ID card has nothing, maybe, to do with voter registration. Instead, if the numbers were to matter, then it would instead be working against the government. But because they know that numbers don't disturb them, it doesn't take away their sleep. They will sleep with two eyes closed and still snore because the number of people who would not establish ID cards to go and register for elections is insignificant to them. So our worry is not even about election. We are looking at how it affects the ordinary man on the ground. And the impact on the ordinary man is that it is going to make many more Cameroonians, it is going to make life more difficult for Cameroonians to establish ID cards.
How so?
Because of the cost. Okay. But if I were to come to what
Mr. Mufo.
To what Mr. Mufo said, that we shouldn't bother, we should not look at only the bad side of it. There are the good sides. Big brother Josh, the good sides were just brought in to justify the overall evil involved in this ID card issue. It is not because the government is interested in making sure that its citizens have ID cards so rapidly to improve on the celerity of the process. No. They are just justifications for why they need the money to like solve the problems that they have created. It is as simple as that. And unfortunately, again, as I said, your wishful thinking will not come to pass. Because unfortunately, our parliament will live up to my expectations. And what are my expectations? That parliament will ratify it in its entirety. It will pass through parliament as a mail that passes through the post without any modifications. It will go through and Cameroonians would, by the time the ID card process starts functioning, we will forget the fact that we have been duped. We will forget the fact that government has scammed us. We will forget the fact that government is extorting from us. I read on a page by some other more prolific activists, government is robbing the collective Peter to pay the selective Paul. Okay. Government is taking from the majority to foot the bills of the few.
You have persistently say that Parliament is going to rectify this law. Is it by any means saying that they are a toothless bulldog? I mean, you should know how laws are enacted in the Parliament. It is a voting system.
Mabel, do you want me to talk like a Nigerian or a Cameroonian?
No, please, Mr. Sama, I want you to be overt.
Like
a Cameroonian, yes.
Who is a victim of a system.
Yes.
Has this parliament ever really stood up successfully, objectively, positively for anything right? Has it ever?
Mr. Jones, you have been chuckling and smiling from one seat to the other. Do you have any contributions to make? We are looking at the economic damage that is going to cause Cameroonians, while Cameroonians are embracing this news or this ordinance. They are also groaning. Some Cameroonians are also groaning because this is actually a pinch on their butts. What do you have to say?
Maybe I keep on saying that one of my characteristics is optimism. You know, 2 weeks ago I was in Yaoundé at the conference center where Parliament sits. And I want to say the people I saw there, within that caucus that they come once or twice in a year, there are persons that if you take them individually and you listen to them, they have opinions which don't tie up with what they call party discipline and some of those things. But unfortunately, and that is where I seem to empathize with Sama, because it's evidence-based. That there have been even a time when that the Parliament surprisingly voted a law, and the Parliament and the Presidency withdrew that same law and changed some of the elements that the people on the other side were actually asking for, that it should change. And the Presidency actually withdrew the bill and adjusted it and gave it back for a second reading. So this is what I'm saying. Based on that, if we are relying on the fact that people are going to keep away party discipline and take into the sensitivities of their constituents, then that one is far-fetched. But I'm saying that because of the collective hue and cry that people who are out of Parliament and other stakeholders, they're actually saying, and this part of the discussion that we're having here is part of that advocacy, that ordinance is a bad ordinance. It is not reflective of what Cameroonians can endure. Is one other headache.
Because of the financial burden that comes with it.
Of course, that is, it goes without saying that you cannot. That is 256% increase from 2,800 to God knows how much direct cost that we are going to subject ourselves. And then the fact that we look at history also. The people who have been ruling this country, it has also been as a result of a lot of abstention. The current head of state has never ever had 3 million votes in the history of this country. For all the presidential elections, he has never had a 3 million votes. And so, what simple projection statistically we are saying that if more Cameroonians, whether they are his party members or the other people, they go out massively to vote, it's going to tilt, it's going to send a message. Because again, we are talking about legitimacy. Because at one point, when you have a scenario whereby there's a limit that a party can have in this particular dispensation. So when you say that there are people who are already benefiting, like those who are in the CPDM, and nothing constrains them, they have all the way without to register. And then all the electioneering, they can only be, including those people they call sympathizer or presidential majority, they cannot be more than 3 million. It goes without saying that once Cameroonians mobilize themselves out, we are going to talk about a shift in the current dispensation. And maybe I know that we are constrained by time, but let me also say, Cameroonians outside there looking at their camera, I'm telling them that they should not, if they don't have food, they don't have water, they don't have air, they should never be lost of hope. Let us change using the peaceful means that is possible by saying out and ensuring that we let the people who are supposed to be representing us to know what we want, and by that way we should have collectively contributed in changing this country. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was a powerful outro there. In just 1 second, what do you have to say to beat the people who have been watching a goodbye?
Okay, I would just like to make one modification as one of the partners with Elecam Cameroon. When you register, this is going to the viewers generally, not my fans, not Mr. Sama's fans, not Mr. Mufo's fans. When you register, and within the process, they will ask you where you are residing. If you say you reside in my 16, they will look at the closest polling station within my 16 Simoliko, which I think is Saint-Therese. They will place you under Saint-Therese. And there is no way on this earth that your name can shift from Saint-Therese to Bokwango. So please, if you are registering, be rest assured that your vote is very relevant, and where you have been placed, that is where you cast your vote. Talking about the ID cards and our topic of the day, we want to thank Madam the moderator and to tell Cameroonians under the banner or the auspices of EYACLA to remain responsible. Don't find yourself in dubious activities and make sure that the ID cards has come.
But as far as I am concerned, I don't expect much to change. The best I can do is only come here and do the talking and then go and sleep, hoping that the next day meets me alive. But to hope that anything good will come out of this ID card thing, we should just expect by the next week or the next month another paparazzi after Eto Fees and Minsep. Now we are talking Brenda Beer. By the next week, they are certainly cooking some other thing to keep us distracted and entertained. To my friends who are members of parliament who are idling in Yaoundé because the much awaited ordinance has not been tabled to them, so they've been idling for almost 24 days. Enjoy your stay and happy time there in Yaoundé.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning into the program. And up next, we have High Prime with Larry Etengedeng. And see you next time. And stay tuned with other programs that are going to be up and for your entertainment delight here on High TV. Good night.